Hi guys, Kerrod here back at Untitled Resort, and in this video I'm going to be talking around the greens, the difference between playing off the fairway and playing out of the thick rough. Let's get into it. Now, when playing a round of golf, we're not always blessed with a beautiful lie in which you see this golf ball lying nicely on the fairway there. Sometimes the ball can finish in some pretty thick rough, and we've got one sitting down in some thick stuff here with a lot of rough surrounding the golf ball. Now, that's going to encourage this golf club to slow down and also de-loft through the moment of impact. So we need to play it in a different manner to ensure that we're able to still get that ball coming out with some height and stopping in a predictable amount of time. So starting over here on the fairway, just as a quick recap for a general pitch shot, we're going to talk about a shot which is only about 15 or 20 meters in length, where you need a little bit of height and get that ball stopping. So if I'm setting up to this one, this general technique would be a narrow flared stance, the ball somewhere in the middle of those heels. Being for the fact that the stance is so narrow, if you want it to launch a little bit lower, move the ball back, a little bit higher, move the ball forward. But it's all relative to the target that you're trying to aim for. So if the pin's at the front of the green, I would encourage you to have the ball a little bit more forward. If it's towards the back of the green, have it a little bit further back, because then that would relate the trajectory to the type of shot that you need to hit. When the pin's at the back of the green, you can afford to have a little bit more run because you've got more green to work with. When it's at the front, you need a little bit more height so the ball could pop up and then stop. So on this fairway shot here, I'm just going to put the ball in my middle of my feet. I'm going to lean to the left, and then as I play this shot, that would pop up and maybe have 1 or 2 meters of rollout. And that would be a very traditional little pitch shot around the greens. Now, when we're looking at this lie over here, it's quite a bit different. If I was to play that same technique, effectively what's going to happen is my golf club's going to come through and it's going to hit too much of this rough. When that happens, the club's going to slow down. The grass will wrap around the heel of the golf club and turn the club face shut. If I do that, the club's going to dig and the ball might shoot out over to the left. So the way that we need to play this one is quite a bit different from the way that we're playing the one on the fairway. So let's start with the setup. Well, I'm going to need to create a little bit more speed here than I would on the previous one. So I'm going to stand a slight bit wider. That's going to give me a little bit more stability as I do so. Now, as we look at this ball here, it's sitting down in the rough. So if I was to have a shallow delivery, meaning the golf club comes in close to the ground, it's going to hit a lot of rough on the way to hit the golf ball. And that's not necessarily desirable in this instance right now. So what we need to do is we need a little bit more of a descending blow on the golf ball. So let's talk about how to do that. Well, as I set up to the golf ball, I'm going to feel like I'm leaning a little bit further forward. That's going to help me hit down a little bit more on this golf ball. I'm also going to increase my wrist hinge. So on a flat lie like this, I can afford to have less wrist hinge, so the arc of the golf club is coming a bit wider and it's going to stay in contact with the turf for a little bit longer. Once again, if I was to do that here, it's going to hit too much of this rough and we're not going to get away with it. So by increasing your wrist hinge, and the feeling of doing that is more of an up and down hinge, so from the down the line view, more of an up and down like this, rather than a traditional sort of pitch shot there. As I get this more up and down feeling with my wrists, it's going to increase the angle in which this golf club comes down to the ball. Effectively, it's going to minimize the amount of grass that you're hitting on the way to making contact. That's going to help you with more predictability of how the golf ball is going to come out. So I'm leaning to the left. I'm going to have a little bit more wrist hinge. Now, I don't want this club to hit into the ground and stick and stop straight away. So if I have the club face slightly open, as this golf club comes in a bit steeper, it's more likely to still sort of bounce through the rough, and it'll ensure that the golf club can still move towards the target. If I have this club face too square, with all that thick grass, it's just going to go into the bristles and then stop pretty well straight away. And that's going to be tough to manage your distance control. So we're going to lean forward. We're going to have a little bit more wrist hinge and the club face slightly open. Now, when I perform this motion, I'm going to add a little bit of speed just so I've got enough to ensure that I'm going to get out of this rough. Let's see how I go. Beautiful. So as this golf club came in, it didn't hit as much ground as it would have if I was playing with the previous technique. The golf club went down, because they had the club face slightly open, it didn't completely dig and stop, kind of bounced through the rough, the ball popped up, and the balls finished very close to each other. So as you can see, there's a few differences in how you play a fairway shot versus a rough shot. This one here, this is for about a 15 or 20 meter pitch shot where you need a little bit of height and getting that ball stopping in some sort of time. So by doing these little adjustments, leaning forward, having the club face slightly open, and a little bit more wrist hinge with speed, that's going to allow you to hit these shots a little bit better than maybe what you're doing at the moment. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Any comments, please ask me below. I'd love to help out. Please like and subscribe so you get notifications of all the videos just like this. But until next time, I'm Kerrod Gray. Thanks for watching.